Welcome along to Crunching Gears, Season 1, Episode 4. In this episode, John Lyons and myself, Kevin Glendinning, talk rallying. John tells us about his career, starting off in auto testing, how his career almost ended before it began. He then moves into his rallying career, and it's a very interesting story. I'm sure you will enjoy it. I'd also like to give a big shout out to the Irish Rally podcast by Kevin Regan. It's been very interesting, the few episodes that's been out so far, and also the Sprint Prog Irish Rally podcast as well by Morris and the guys. It's fantastic. They're doing a review of the 2001 WRC campaign, and it's a brilliant story so far. Long may it continue, guys.
What could you do in a works car with works backup, you think, Frank?
Take it handy and win every rally around.
Bertie Fisher and Andrew Nesbitt have made the 1999 event a classic, as we have already said. Never has so much been provided for so many by so few.
The proudest time in the seat of a rally car, because that day and that hour and those minutes, I got the bit between my teeth. You know, I really stood up and was counted and said, this is not getting away. I remember when we pulled on our helmets and Donald says to me, what are we doing? I said, we're going for gold, Barrett.
In the Crunching Gears podcast tonight, we're going to speak to John Lyons. John has been a veteran of Irish rallying and highly successful. And welcome along, John.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you? And thank you very much for having me on this. Yeah, I had a long career in motorsport, and it was very rewarding. I enjoyed it immensely.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get involved?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Kevin.
How did you get involved in motorsport in the first place?
Well, I was always very, very interested in motor cars and vehicles and machinery generally, and I was brought up outside Castlederrick on a farm, and my father had a quarry as well. Mm-hmm. I was always surrounded by machinery and by vehicles, and I loved that, and I couldn't be kept away from them, which was danger at the time, as it always is, but that was the attraction. And I learned to drive when I was 7 years of age. My father taught me how to drive in an Austin A30. Now, all I could do was put it in the first gear and drive it around with a cushions under me and a blanket behind me to keep me sitting up. But I was absolutely obsessed by driving and loved it. And that was really it. So I always had old cars at home. I bought something at £5 or £10 back then, and worked on it and drove it around the quarry and drove it around the farm. So that was my interest, and that's why I was in motor, really. Motorsport. Well, I got my driving license, and of course there wasn't any money around, and auto testing appealed to me because it was a cheap form of motorsport. At least I thought it was. If any form of motorsport is cheap, and it was. So I bought a Wolseley Hornet. Started off with a wee Wolseley Hornet, which was overweight and underpowered, but it was all I could afford. I was very proud of it. And I started auto testing, and won the novice class, and I loved auto testing. And I started it in 1969. But I knew the car wasn't very good, so after a wee while, after a few months, I sold it, and I bought a second-hand Mini Cooper S. It was 3 years old, and it was a good car, tartan red with a black roof, and a proper Mini Cooper. A Mark I, the last of Mark I's. And I thought it was the king of the castle when I got it. And it was a very competitive wee car. So I auto testing again. I started to do the Northern Ireland Championship, and it was halfway through at the time. But I won a few rounds of the Northern Ireland Championship, and I seemed to have a natural gift for that sport. And it was October. By October, I had qualified for the British Championship, the British Auto Test Championship. That was October 1970, and the final of the British Championship was held at Newbury, Berkshire, and I was delighted that I actually qualified for that. For I didn't think I was capable. So headed off with a Mini Cooper S, drove from Castledare to Stranraer down the full length of Scotland, England to Newbury, and I got the surprise of my life the next morning at the test centre. There were all these cars with spare wheels and trailers and whatnot, and there I had driven my Mini Cooper S from Castledare, County Tyrone, and I thought I've no chance against these boys. And mind you, they all talked a good game. Anyhow, I suppose the fear factor drove me on, and no one passed any of the marks on me. But by lunchtime, I was leading the event, and then they started to notice me. Yes. And at the end of the event, I had won by quite a substantial margin, but it was one of my best drives, and it left me British champion. So I was absolutely thrilled by that. And it's not often that you can get through the auto test circus so quickly, but it was just something I adapted to, and had a good car as well. So I drove back up the next day, and I was delighted to get home, and there was a wee paragraph in the Belfast Telegraph that I'd won the British Championship, so I thought it was fantastic. But funny enough, it's a strange story. I wrote this one interesting, but that was October, and everything was going well for me, really going well. And I was mixing at the top of the tree with good drivers and good sportsmen. And then in December, I had a massive car accident on the Omagh Ballygolly Road. Not in the Mini Cooper S, but in another car, a Ford Anka. But the accident was with an army vehicle, an army Saracen. Not the thing to have that accident with. And that was a very, very serious accident. And I'm sure you would hardly believe this. I spent a year and 6 months in hospital. Now, I was in intensive care for a few weeks, taken to Musgrave Hospital in Belfast, and I had a lot of injuries, and that was really good. So I don't know if you want to include that sort of thing in this.
Of course, yes. That's all part of your story, isn't it?
Yeah. It was a very, it was funny how your life can come from being top of the tree, British champion, 20 years of age, and then you just go from hero to zero. And that's the way it was. And my injuries, once I got over the fractured skull and whatnot, but a lot of orthopedic injuries, sternum, broken arm, broken leg, broken hip, a bladder ruptured, all that sort of thing. And that's why there was just such a length of time spent in the hospital. It's unheard of for anyone to have spent that length of time in hospital, because you know, if anybody told me when I was taken in, or even after a month that I'd be there for another 17 months, I wouldn't have believed it. No. Because after all, I was 20 years of age. And the reason that I spent such time in hospital, all the rest injuries healed except my right leg and hip, because I contracted a vascular necrosis of the bone, which meant there was no blood supply going to the leg. Right. And that meant that you know, that's a very tricky one. And they would operate, and they'd have to wait 18 weeks to see was anything happening. So that was the reason for the continuity in there. 18 weeks, then if nothing happened, another operation. And that continued on, but anyhow, they came twice to amputate my leg, and twice I refused, because I thought, as long as I can move my toes, there must be something it'll get better. But it was a life-changing experience in hospital that amount of time, and I couldn't speak highly enough of the treatment and everything I got in Musgrave Park Hospital. And for years, I went back every Christmas to visit them and make a donation, because they really had such great treatment there. So I got out after in December 1970. I came out in May 1972. So I celebrated my 21st birthday and my 22nd birthday in Musgrave Park.
Yes, and like you had to then obviously build up muscle tone and everything again. Then after being, were you laid up a lot of that time then as well?
Right. Well, absolutely, because while I was in the hospital, I was in what they called, for 11 months of that time, I was in a full spica. A full spica is when you're in plaster of Paris from your neck to your feet. Right. The only thing showing is your head, your arms, your toes. And people say, well, how did you go to the toilet? You were lifted on and off a bed pad. That's the way you were. 3 nurses had to do it daily. And you could feed yourself. But that was really it. And it was, if anybody told me at the time I would be in hospital that life at the time, I would, you couldn't take it in. No. And it was, it was a horrific time. But once you got acclimatized, and once the care and attention you got was second to none, I use that word, you were hospitalized. You were used to people doing things for you. And I always had the faith that I would walk out of there. I did walk out on crutches, but I walked out.
Yes, but under your own steam after all.
That's right. And as soon as I got out, I purchased another Mini Cooper S, and I did my first event in Scotland. I still have that in the scrapbook. And all the entourage and all the people went over from the north and south of Ireland. Yeah. And I, believe it or not, I won the event outright, and I'd even surprised myself because I did a comeback like that, and that did make the headlines. Yes. And so there I was back again, and I never looked back since.
Isn't that amazing? Like, what a comeback from being in the hospital for 18 months to coming back in your first event, back out again, stepping back in. You obviously had just a natural flair for it. You really.
Well, there was a natural flair for it, and that was my sport, and I suppose I was a bit obsessed by it. And I felt that's something to prove, and that's that. While I was lying in hospital, spending those long months there, I really felt myself that I wanted to come back again and compete, and that's so I did.
Yes, I suppose at 20 years of age. Sorry, I say at 20 years of age, I suppose you think you can take on the world. There's no inhibitions, nothing to stop you. Really, is there?
Well, that's exactly right, because I was 20 years of age when I went in, and I was 22 when I came out, and I suppose I still had youth on my side, and I felt after when I came through, I could face anything. It actually gave me strength to go forward. People that say, I'm scared of having another accident. That was a road accident, and it was nothing to do with motorsport, and I left that behind me. Okay, it was very, very unfortunate. I was near death's door for a few weeks, but it was a life-changing experience. But we never know what's in front of us, and it certainly matured me.
Yes,
I would like to think actually it made me a better person.
So then you got back into auto testing again, and then so did you continue auto testing then, or was it soon after that you changed it, moved over to rallying?
No, I really got into auto testing then. I got into auto testing then in a really big way, and I did the Irish Championship in 1973. That's the Houston. It's called the Houston. It's the oldest trophy in Irish motorsport, the Houston Trophy. Right. And the Houston Trophy, the cup itself, is so valuable that the RIAC, or Motorsport Ireland as they are now, don't ever let it out of their premises, and they're quite right, because it's very valuable. Yeah. But I was the first man from Northern Ireland to win the Hewison, and that I was exceptionally grateful for that. And then 1974, I planned to. I got sponsorship from my employer, Ulster Bank, who I had joined when I was 17 years of age, and they were a very good employer. And they stood by me through thick and thin, and they sponsored me to do the Irish Championship, the Northern Ireland Championship, and the British Championship.
Right.
And that was going to be a busy year, but at least the events were at weekends. And there were 10 events in the Northern Ireland Championship. There were 16 in the Hewison Irish Championship, and there were 20 in the British Championship. The British Championship consisted of 2 championships, the RAC and the British Championship. And so many rounds counted towards the RAC, and so many rounds counted towards the British Championship. So I thought I'll try and do them all anyhow, and I might win one of them. But I got off to a good start. I was fairly consistent, and I ended up at the end of 1974, after doing something like over 40 events. I won the British Championship, the RAC Championship, the Northern Ireland Championship, and the Irish Hewison Championship. And I was awarded Northern Ireland Motorsport Personality of the Year.
And rightly so with that.
Well, thank you. But, everything went for me. And you need a wee rub of the green and a bit of luck to do that too. And I had that on my side. And I had a good car, and that I enjoyed it thoroughly. And after doing that, it was amazing. Then I'd achieved everything I'd set out to do, and I was very, very grateful for that. And I thought then, well, I've achieved all now in auto testing, and the bank had sponsored me. It was very, very good. Paid the travel cost back and forward to England for the events, and I think there's no motorsport cheap, but one of the more forms of motorsport.
Yes.
But to do those amount of championships, there's a lot of travel involved and a lot of expense. So I was very grateful. But that's enough's enough now, and I'll have one more year where I'll just do the Northern Ireland Championship, which really consisted of 10 events, and that's exactly what I did. I did the Northern Ireland Championship and decided then that I would stop auto testing because it had been very, very good to me. Great form of motorsport, great discipline, and it taught you a lot about car control. And I felt then that this, I'll stop it now and maybe move to something else at a later stage.
Yes. So then you got the rallying bug. Then what encouraged you to go rallying?
Well, I took a year off then, nearly a year off, but I was bored, as you can imagine, after being involved at such a high level, or just being so busy with events. I thought, well, it wasn't that I'd love to have gone rallying, but I thought to myself, I just couldn't afford it. Like, I was working in the bank, I didn't own it, and I thought, I'd love to rally, but the machinery's dear. It's just a different playing field altogether for all the tests. You can turn it up on a test with a fairly competitive wee car and be competitive. I thought to myself, well, I'd like to try the Circuit of Ireland as a one-off, just to do it once to see what it's like. And to do the Circuit of Ireland, you need an international competition license. I hadn't done any rallies, but I applied for an international competition license and to the RAC in Pall Mall in London. And with my background in motorsport and auto testing, they gave it to me. So I got an international license, never done a rally before. And I contacted a Donegal man, who is a very good friend of mine, Eric Porter from St. Johnson. And I said, what am I doing in the Circuit of Ireland? And so I have a good car. I had a BMW 2002 TII road car that I bought from Jack Cassidy. And Jack, he was all for it. He says, you'll have to do it. he insisted that I do the Circuit of Ireland. So between Jack encouraging me, giving me sponsorship, and we entered for the 1976 Circuit of Ireland in the BMW. Now, it had a limited slip. We put Bilstein suspension on a roll cage and a few bits and pieces, and that was it. But it was a standard car, like it was really a showroom car more than a Group 1 car. And we entered Group 1, talk about the deep end. As you know, the Circuit of Ireland was 5 days then.
Yes.
It was 5 days hard labour, and we set off, and it started in that year in Bangor, and it ended 5 days later on a Tuesday afternoon in Larne, covering the whole of Ireland.
Yes.
Well, and we were seated 40 or 50. I would need to look up the scrapbooks to see, but somewhere around there, which was pretty decent seating. And after gone out of, I really treated it like a big auto test, and I was flat out from the word go. Really, there was no such thing as pacing yourself. I didn't think, 5 days later, it was just like a big auto test to me from start of stage to end of stage. Yes. And I knew the car would be reliable. I didn't think it would let me down for a good car, fresh. And after all, it wasn't tuned, so it stood a chance of sticking it as long as I could stick it. And on the Friday, after the Friday stages, we're actually leading Group 1, and I could hardly believe that, because I just wondered how I would mix it with these guys. Big entry, a lot of big names there, and I was delighted to be in amongst them. But I kept the pace as hard as go, but different ones caught me and whatnot, and anyhow, reached Killarney on the Saturday afternoon, and when I pulled into Killarney and went to see the results on the board later on that night, I was 18th overall. I was absolutely delighted with myself. That I was even there, in the top 20. I thought, this is fantastic. I just wished it had ended there and then. I thought, 18th overall, my goodness, but boy, oh boy, was I going through tyres. I was in Dunlop Racing CR65 tyres. Jack Cassidy was also doing the Circuit of Ireland in a BMW 2002, so we were sharing the service van.
Yes.
I'd used all my tyres and all his tyres. So we had to go to Nigel Green in the Dunlop van and start buying tyres, and they're pretty expensive.
Yes.
And anyhow, we bought away at tyres and got up on the Sunday morning, very, very early as it was in the Circuit of Ireland those days, and did the Sunday run. And the longer the rally went on, we come up a few places each time. And I was up to fourth in Group 1, and delighted with that. Yeah. And we kept on. And of course, after the Sunday run, I went out Sunday night and had a few drinks and enjoyed myself, not realizing that Monday morning came very early and you didn't get any sleep on Monday night, and it was Tuesday before the rally ended in Larne.
Yes.
How naive I was. I really was. Anyhow, very good myself went out and celebrated for doing that. For Monday morning came bright and early, off we had again, and we were tired. We were very tired. We kept our concentration, and I suppose the elation of mixing it with these superstars. Really, we were delighted to be amongst them, delighted to meet a lot of nice people, as Rally fraternity is. And we got back to Larne, two very tired boys on a Tuesday just after lunchtime, and we finished 12th overall and were third in Group 1. We were really, really pleased with ourselves. Just to have done it and to have competed this circuit and been able to meet all the guys that I knew were really, really good drivers, and just to be talking to them, mixed it with them. And it was 5 of the stages of my life at that stage. And after we got there and celebrated that night, of course, to get home for a few days, which was the norm, that was morale career over. Like, I was happy. I really didn't see myself doing anything further, because I knew rallying was always expensive. And I'm just very grateful to have done that. To finish the circuit and got to that stage. So I sold the BMW because there were quite a few people who thought this was a great car. So I sold it, and that's it.
That was your rallying career over.
That was, as far as I was concerned, that was
Yes.
rallying career over. But Terry Porter enjoyed it too. By the way, for the service crew, it was the same with me all my rallying career, all my life. All the guys right home, they were all my friends, and they were with me all the way.
Yes.
They if I take Trevor Sample, who ended up co-driving for me, Danny Lynch, John Wilson, Patsy Keenan, Gary Wilson, Billy John Dolan, who sponsored Tyrone.
Yes.
They were all there in the van and all with me and giving me, they just gave you great moral encouragement, and they were such a support in every way, and that's what drove me on. Of course, when I said, like, that's the rally career over, they'd all enjoyed themselves so much. They said, no, you have to do another one, you have to do more. Well, that was the money spent in 1976, so I can assure you there was no more rallies in 76. But 77 came along, and the Galway International Rally was coming up, and I went and I bought a Mark 1, the Mark 2 escort right then, but I bought a Group 1 Mark 1 escort of Freddie Patterson from Ballycully. And Freddie was always good to me about my rally career. And it was a bit of an intricate deal, but we did the deal and the sponsorship and whatnot. Haven't time to go into the whole intricacies of it now, but it was a good car. I bought it with a broken prop shaft.
Right.
And he ended up Sydney Meek to fix the prop shaft, and I ended up with this Mark 1 Group 1 RS 2000, which actually had been an ex-Tony Bond, or not Tony Bond, it was next tour of Britain.
Oh, yes.
So it was a next tour of one of those ones. And although it was a wee bit long with the tooth and a wee bit tired, it was a very good car. And it was the first time I sat in a proper rally car, even though it was Group 1. I liked it. I didn't like it. I loved it. It handled well, braked well, and went well. And with that, all the same crew again, Derek Porter co-driving, all the rest of the boys from Castle Derrick all backing me, and with no service wagon at that stage. So Trevor Sample bought Father Mannion, the priest at home. He was selling his Cortina, an old brown Cortina. Trevor bought that, and that was going to be the service wagon. Well, we hadn't a lot of spares to put in, so the Cortina was ideal. It was more for carrying the boys than it was for carrying spares. Off we head to Galway. I drove the car down with no trailer for the car.
Right.
So drove the Group 1 car down to Galway. The rest of the boys came in the Ford Cortina, and there was more than 4 of them, I can assure you. And that was the 77 Galway International. Now, anyone with a long memory or old enough will remember that was the year that the snowfall came to Galway.
Right, yes.
Actually engulfed Finch. And Friday night was fine. We got off in the rally, and we got halfway through Friday night. It started to snow very heavily, which caught everyone out. Back we came, a lot of cars went out too because of the very, very snowy conditions. Back into Park Firm that night, and it was the frostiest night of the year in 1977.
Yes.
Next morning at Park Firm, every car was frozen solid, and those people, racing tires were no good. People were looking for tires and whatnot and chasing anything they had, and the Galway was snowed in. And there was a service on the way out to the first stage. And on the way out to the first stage, I wondered what I was going to do, because I wasn't on that CR65s. And I saw, when we pulled in the service, I said to Trevor, I said, "Hey Trevor, Father Manion's Cortina," says I, "it's sitting on a brand new set of Dunlop SP Sport tires. They were wide rimmed because Father Mannion like cars, right?" So we swapped the wheels of the Escort. We put the racing tires and rims onto the Cortina, and we put the steel rims of onto the Ford Escort, which was perfectly legal for the same size 13-inch rims.
Yes.
I let the tires down I let the SP Sports down to less than £20 for grip. And you have to realise that the conditions, the snow, it was really horrendous conditions, which suited me down to the ground. And off we went on the Saturday stages. And by lunchtime on Saturday, we had pullers of stuff to lead the rally overall. So there we were, pulling into the service area in Moore, I think it was, and we were first overall. I couldn't believe it myself. Like, I couldn't believe it. But what was happening? The cars, the much more powerful cars. You had John Taylor over, who was the champion. You had Billy there. You had them all. You had all the names there. You had Jared Buckley, Mecanano, Paul, and I did remind myself what the 77 International entry was. But we were sort of scared the life out of myself. I didn't think I should be there. But what helped, as I say, was the conditions, and also what helped was a set of, radial ply tyres, good Dunlop SP Sports. So we kept on, and as I say, the conditions suited me well. I remember catching 3 cars going downhill in the corkscrew, and we finished the Saturday night leading the rally, and by about over 2 minutes, which was a fairly substantial lead. And then we planned it that night. We looked at and saw how many stages there were. I think there were 8 or 10 stages on the Sunday. And it was starting to dry up at this stage. The snow was starting to melt, which didn't suit me, because I wanted those slip to slow the powerful cars down. But we reckoned, well, I might be able to hold on to the lead, because they'd have to take, at least 2 seconds a mile of me. 2 seconds a mile is quite a lot, yes. So I planned Sunday morning again, we were out and drove the usual way, just flat out as best I could. And we held the lead. The quicker cars were taking time away. I wasn't setting fastest times any longer, but I was in the top 4, 5, 6. So I was never out of the top 6. And nobody was taking a chunk of time out of me. So that I reckon we'll get through here. Now, the lead was being diminished all the time. So 2 stages to go. With 2 stages to go, we're at the penultimate stage, and it was dry as powder. Everything going well, and I remember a long straight. And Ronnie McCartney, actually, he was doing the rally, and he had got out of it, and he had started to do spotter car for me, and he'd be at the stages to help me. And we were going along a long straight, long bogland. Car stop, throttle cable up. Right. You immediately, it's just died. I thought, what's wrong? And of course, the throttle pedal went to the floor, and got into the side, jumped out. 2 cars started to go past me, as you can imagine. Opened the bonnet and saw where the cable was. Now, anyone familiar with a Group 1 Ford Escort would realise that the air filter takes up the whole of the engine bay. Big flat pan air filter. But I got my hand into the carburetor, into the side graft, whatever, and I got a hold of the cable, and I cut my hand to the bone with get the hold of the cable, and I got the cable out, and I wound it round the bonnet bracket. So I was winding the throttle as flat open, or as near the flat open that I could get, and wound it round. Blood was teeming out of my hand. Didn't even notice anything or anything else. Jumped into the car again, started it up, and knew I could get it going on the switch key and get it to the end of the stage. So between using it, started up, away we went, and we were able to change gear, everything else, just switch key on, off, switch key on, off, got into the stage, and lo and behold, luck was on the side, because there was a service before the last stage. So there was that, we pulled into the service area, which was at the side of the road then. And of course, we had no throttle. Hope. 2 petrol cans and spare wheels, and we looked. Sydney Meek was there, so I said to Sydney, by that stage, a lot of people were helping me, because we were leading the rally, and they wanted to see the underdog doing well. So Sydney ran around, was able to get a throttle cable, put the throttle cable on, left the car perfect, and at the last stage to go. So look, I didn't know how or where I was lying at that stage. I didn't have time to see. But I knew I'd lost the lead, and I knew I'd dropped probably outside the top 10, because the time stopped at the side of the stage for a fair length of time, getting the throttle cable tied around the bracket to get a throttle that had lost an awful lot of time. But anyway, went into the last stage and drove as hard as I could, and got to the end. And lo and behold, we had managed to get back in front for the Group 1 lead. So we won Group 1 and we finished 7th overall. Now, if anyone had told me at the start of the Galway International Rally, you'll win Group 1 and you'll have it overall, I would have broken their arm for it. But that was it. It was a fantastic rally, one of the best rallies of my life, just because of the way it went and because the ups and downs and just the way it is with rallying.
Unfortunately, yeah, but
well, next that was it. So that John Taylor won the rally. Actually, and I won Group 1, and Vincent Bonner, another Donegal man, he was second in Group 1 in the Vauxhall. He and his brother Michael, and they were second in the Vauxhall. So that was the 1977 Galway International Rally. The second rally and the second international.
Yes.
And I loved every moment of it. Like the bug had well and truly bitten.
That was it. There was no turning back. So then by 1978, you had progressed on to a Mark II, but still in Group 1. And
that's right, yes. Did a few more wee forest rallies and things in that car. And it was a particularly good car, I must say. Even though it was long in the tooth, it was a good vehicle. And then I got the Mark II. Freddie Patterson, again, he actually lent that Mark II Escort for for Donegal.
Right, yes.
Was that
that was 78, yep.
Yep. Yep. And Freddie lent the it was Bertie Fisher's. He had traded in Bertie Fisher's Group 1 car and sold Bertie Group 4 car.
Yes.
So Freddie was always wheeling and dealing rally cars. He had that. He says, John, he says, you can use that for Donegal and get me a bit of publicity. So that was fine. We got the car just just a few days before the start of the rally, and I got a late entry. Donegal been very kind to me, as always. And got the car down home to Castleberg and found the steering, and there was something wrong with it, but it was the bushes, the brass bushes were gone and the steering back. So Harold Walls made up brass bushes and made it absolutely perfect. Harold of Victoria Bridge, engineer. And that was the only way to get the car, and took it to Donegal. By that stage, Willie John Dolan had supplied a van for service, so we were really going professional. We were able to park up Father Mannion, and off we headed to Donegal, and it was a great rally. I loved it. Of course, the weather was the usual rally weather, sun splitting the stones, and we were in the top 6 stage times for the Friday, and we led Group 1 for the word go, and it's Donegal is home county to me, and 3 or 2 miles across the border, so that was my home patch. That gave me a lot of confidence, and the boys were all there supporting me, so that was it. So we were having a great rally in Donegal. The Friday and the Saturday, and all the support I had from Castleberg and home and from my friends, and the Sunday we were that was the year Ari was in it.
Yes, I was going to say you had another special fan that weekend too, hadn't you? A Finnish visitor, I think, was a big fan of yours as well that weekend too.
That's right. We got on very well. It was great. It was great fun, you know, for me to be running alongside Ari Vatten. I thought, this is fantastic. And you pull up at the start of the stage and they talk to you and say, this car is going too fast, you know. And I thought, for Ari Vatten to say this to me, this is fantastic. that really got me excited. But it was lovely to talk to the like of Ari and start, you know, that was a lovely part to start a stage, just having the fun, talking to the guys, talking to all these people that I was getting to know who were really, really good drivers. And already led the rally by a mile. But we had got into the top 3 overall, and we're absolutely delighted with ourselves. And as I say, Trevor Semple then was co-driving for me that rally.
Yes.
Wasn't Derek. Derek was actually doing the rally in the Mark 1 car.
Right.
The wee blue Escort that I had. And so Trevor stood into the breach, and we're having a great run. Trevor was always about 8 stone, so it was a good bit of weight saving there. And I find that the Mark 2 Escort was different from the Mark 1, and that it had better brakes. Same amount of power, no difference power-wise. Right. I would have preferred the Mark 1 car to handle. The Mark 1 Escort handled better than the Mark 2 because lower centre of gravity in a Mark 1 Escort. Right. And the Mark 2 Escort, it was very easy to get up on 2 wheels. There's a lot of glass in the Mark 2 Escort. There's a lot of glass up top, and there's a higher centre of gravity. And it would 2-wheel very easily. Good, but the Mark 1 would have handled better. But I liked it, I loved it. It was a good car, well sorted car, and never gave a bit of bother at all. We upped it very hard in one stage and bent the steering rack, which made it a wee bit difficult just to stiff the steer, but it didn't matter. And then on the Sunday, with a couple of stages to go, just on that stage, I forget the name of it now, outside Milford, we weren't paying attention at that time because there's nothing really to be gained. We weren't going to really improve our position. We're sitting in the top 3, feeling pretty good. I might have got the second, I'm not sure. And we were down the straight. I thought I felt the car weave a wee bit, and I should have lifted off with more experience and a bit of sense. I should have lifted off before we went into a right-hander. Set her up for the right-hander. When I set her up, the left-hand back tire deflated, and she went round the road like a top, tumbled down the road, and tumbled to the ditch into a potato field. Right. And but it landed on its wheels, and I thought it was never going to stop rolling. But it's fairly high speed. But I think maybe that helped one way because it kept the momentum up. Yes. And the car actually there was rumours was that you
rolled 7 times, wasn't there? So.
Well, that's right. That's what Trevor, the co-driver, said. Mind you, I wasn't counting.
No.
I was just holding on for grim life, to tell you the truth. But anyhow, the car was on its wheels, all the glass broken, and I couldn't, you're sitting there shocked. There's no other way. You're absolutely, totally shocked. Like, what happened? Yes. And, I was staring out of the windscreen, the belts had kept you in, the dust and dirt was flying down around you, and the most natural thing in the world to do is just try and see if it starts again. So, turn the key off and on. The car turned over a few times and fired up. Stuck it in the gear and headed for the gateway. And I wasn't stopping, gate open or closed. And there were a few boys on the ditch that witnessed the whole thing. They ran and opened the gate very kindly. Out they went, turned right, and continued to the end of the stage with a flat tire. Now, it was no point in changing it. Yes. Got to the end of the stage, and Trevor said it was, 3 miles or something to service. Still didn't change the back tire, drove her on to service, and in the service area, we changed the back wheel then, we got the sledge out, and we battered up the roof, and took the sledge to the car, but there's nothing else you could do to it. It's a travelling wreck. Yes. But, everything was working. We lined the steering, and just checked everything, did the tire pressures, put on, as a matter of fact, we put on 4 new tires for the last stage, and there were 2 stages to go, but one was cancelled. Right. Knockalla was cancelled because of crowds, and so that didn't help me at all because I thought I needed more stage miles to try and get back up here again, and. So we drove just over Knockalla normal speed onto the last stage, which was Fallet Head. I adore Fallet. Yes. And Fallet sorts the men from the boys. And when you had nothing to lose, it was Fallet done in reverse, actually, starting in Rathmullen that way. Yes. So off we went, and I drove as fast as I could. And I didn't know what time I had to make up, or I didn't know where I really was. I just knew I'll have to do my best. I did my best, and no glass in the car was difficult. We put on sunglasses to try and protect our eyes.
Yeah.
But even the sunglasses were ripped off us with the wind going along by the playing fields, you know, that big straight
Yes,
along
that long straight there, yes.
Yeah, fastest part in the rally. And the fastest part of that stage will be one of the fastest stages too. And the sunglasses flew out from onto the crash helmet, so with no sunglasses either. And Trevor Semple, my co-driver, he has a glass eye. He's only one eye because he lost one eye in an accident. Yeah. And he should have been protecting his eyes more than me, but Trevor sat on anyhow and never said a word. And came to the end of the stage, and that was it. We looked at our time, and all the guys, like the rally had ended there, and that was the last stage. Yes. Ari was there, all the boys were there, and out the time card, and they compared it, and Sean Campbell was there. Sean was shell-shocked. I nearly felt a pity for him. He says, John, he says, you took the lead back of me again, but I'd lost it to him after it rolled over. Yeah. Are you sure? Are you sure, Sean? Because I really didn't think, you know, I didn't know how much I was behind, but I thought I'd lost an awful amount of time. Yes. But anyhow, I had a very good time on the stage and got the lead of Group 1 back. So instead of finishing second or third overall, I finished, was it seventh or eighth overall? Seventh overall, yeah. Seventh overall, and won Group 1. Yes. So I'm back to Letterkenny as happy as Larry, and Freddie's car was ready for the scrappy.
Because Wendy uploaded a photo there recently to Facebook, and the smile in your two faces, it was priceless, you know, not a window.
Did she put that up? Did she put that up?
Yes.
I'll have to tell her to stop that.
The car all dented, not a bit of glass in it, and just the two big smiles from the two boys. As happy as that.
Oh, we're very happy you wrecked the car. You know what? Freddie never said a word. Right. Everybody was saying to me that, you know, what's Freddie Patterson going to say? What's Freddie Patterson going to say? Freddie never said a word. Yes. And I ended up buying the car off him. I said, yes. He was man enough to lend me the car, and yes. At least I was man enough to buy it off him.
Yes.
That was, but you know, I was smitten by Group 1 at that stage. I liked Group 1. It was an even playing field. Group 1 cars were, you know, every Group 1 car was even. It was an even playing field.
Yes, it didn't matter how much money you were throwing at it, you had the same equipment as the next man.
That's right, exactly. And that's something I loved at rally, and it's just something I wish we could turn back the clock and have it that way, but that's not possible.
No.
But I like Group 1 for that reason. And that was really the bucket welln's really bitten then. 76, 77, 78, and won the car of Freddie. Yes. On ahead from there.
And 79 then, Datsun come knocking at your door for the Galway rally. How did that come about?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I'd won quite a few Group 1 rallies at that stage, so I was in a fairly good run and established myself, I suppose. And I was, you know, I was up mixed it with Group 4 cars as well. So Datsun, Andy Dawson was in charge of Datsun then, very quick driver, and he had a Datsun. He looked after the Datsun franchise, or the works cars, and he offered me the Datsun for a Datsun Violet for Galway, and naturally I was delighted to accept it. And the Datsun Violet, it didn't look like a rally car. It was a 4-door saloon car, but you know that Datsun Violet had won this. Not that particular car, but it had won the South African rally. And, you know,
yes, and the Safari and all that. Yes, yep.
Yeah, she got had one rally, isn't it? So it was a well sorted car. Sent it over before the circuit. I hardly got a drive in it. You know, I didn't get tested or anything, but just a wee drive before the rally. But it felt just like a nice road car. It felt like a Group 1 car, except it had more power, but very tractable power. You know, no big camshaft on it. No. It was just an easy car to drive. Wrecked well, did everything nicely, and so we headed to Galway on that, and on the Friday night, there was a spares package sent with it, and there again, all the boys from home were with me. Derek Porter was back in the co-driver's seat, and Willie John Dolan was there with the service van. And for once we had we had need for the service van and plenty of spares, which weren't mine. I just adapted to the car straight away. I liked it, and we ended up on the Friday where we're up in the top 3. We were second overall actually, and then in one of the stages over excuse me, over Bogland, I cut a corner tight, and I hit a hidden stone, and it was I didn't realise it, but that was one of the weaknesses in the Datsuns. They had a tie bar, something similar to what you have in a Mini, an old style Mini, a tie bar on the front suspension. But what they did in East African Safari, they put on what they call safari straps, a steel strap, because these tie bars could break if you touched anything. But the steel straps weren't on my car. But they didn't think there was any need for them in tarmac, and I suppose in many ways there shouldn't be. You shouldn't be hitting the rocks, but I did hit this. It was only a stone. It wasn't that much. But I pushed the wheel back, and that left the car we had to stop. And then the boys got into the stage, which they shouldn't have, and we got this car out of the stage by one running alongside the front left-hand wheel and kicking it to keep it from into place. Yes. And we were just getting out of the stage at 5-10 miles an hour, but we hadn't far to go, so we got out of the stage and that was it. And but lo and behold, we were out of our time. Right. And that was us out of the rally, because there's a spare tie bar there. We fixed the car; it was perfect again. Yes. And I was sorry because the car was a much better car than what people realised, and what I realised as well. This was a competitive car. This was the first time I'd driven a car that would really been capable of. It hadn't the grunt of a Group 4 Escort or anything they got there, but it had a very tractable power. About 30 breakdown on the Group 4 Escort, but it was very easily driven, handled beautifully, extremely well set up car, and that was it. So I was very disappointed there that we didn't get further, but at least we showed that what we could do in that car for the short time over there, and we were right up there. Yes. And the car then went back to Datsun, but I was to get it again for the Circuit of Ireland, but that didn't materialise, for the budget didn't come through from Datsun, so it was just a one-off drive. Very grateful for it. Sorry I didn't do more with it, but that was it. Yes. So I purchased another Group 1 Escort. That was the Vladimir Vodka one. Yes. I bought an Escort in England from a guy, Peter Clark. Nothing to Roger, Peter Clark, and brought the car home and sent it to Sydney Meek, and Sydney sorted it out properly. And so we had a good fit Group 1 car for that was the circuit. The circuit. The circuit. Yes, you did. Yeah. You're finished again top 10 overall in the circuit that year, and Class 1 again that year as well too. So. Yeah, Group 1 again. So yeah, with a good run on the circuit. Yes. We got a good run on the circuit. Car performed well. Jimmy Davison co-drove with me. He was the co-driver, and your band, the competition that year, the big competition with the New Zealander Alan Carter. He had a David Sutton prepared Group 1 Escort, and but we managed to keep ahead of him. Although it was tight, we were swapping seconds stages. He took some of me, I took some of him, and but at least I was leading, and then he went off the road. That took the pressure off, and then he went off the road a second time and out of the rally. So that left me that I was able to ease back, and I think I finished 8th overall, 7th or 8th overall. Something like that, I'm not sure. Yes. Memory fades, time fades in memory. Yes. That was Penty Ricola won it that year. That's right. Yes, he was the first foreigner to win it, wasn't he, at that time? Then you went on to Donegal again that year, like once again, star performance again, So. Yeah, Donegal that year. That was nice. A home match again, Donegal.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a great year that year. Yeah, put Trevor Semple back in the co-driver's seat again, and off we went, and we had a really nice run, and we finished third overall. So that was good amongst the Group 4 stuff, and. Enjoyed that. Didn't put a mark on the car, a bit of a tippers than the year before, but that was it. So that was an enjoyable brilliant weather. God, it was typical.
Yes.
And a great rally too that year.
Yes.
Brian Nelson won it. Verdi was second. I was third.
Yes.
And so Kidney was fourth. I forget who was fifth or sixth.
Yeah, but like fantastic to be mixing it with the guys in a Group 4 car and you in your Group 1 car once again, wasn't it? You know, so.
It was nice. It was indeed. Yeah.
I just looking at your results then. 1980, the FSO, the Polish car maker. You signed
that was a great experience.
Yes.
I got that. That was a lovely drive to get. Okay, people laughed because the car wasn't very good, but you know, I was very grateful and honoured to be elected to drive the car.
Yes.
The importers were in London for that FSO Polonaise, Polski Polonaise. And it didn't look a great car. Four-door car again, looked like a bit of a hen house in the wheels, but it was a big, strong lump of a car, and it used a Fiat twin cam engine. It used a Carlotti gearbox, which was brilliant. That's the same gearbox as they had the Stratos, and there's a big heavy lump of a back axle. So you know the car. I went out to Poland, drove the car out to the factory. That was a great experience. Lovely to get out there. The Polish people were such a lovely nation, and that was 1980. It wasn't a nice time to go to Poland because the troubles were on with Russia, and you know the tanks were up at Gdansk at the border, and it just wasn't a nice place to be. But I loved being there and having the experience and seeing around the factory and the way the Polish people looked after you. You know, they really made you for something else, and you were their driver, and they protected you and looked after you, and that was it. So, the first rally was the Polish rally, which was a round of the European Championship. Well, the European Championship was big stuff.
Yes.
And I got driving the Polski and got making some changes to it, and I felt the car. If it lightened it and softened the spring and done a wee bit of work like that there, you could have made it more competitive, but it was really hard work to drive. It was left-hand drive. Now, left-hand drive doesn't bother me in the slightest. As a matter of fact, I like left-hand drive. But I was perfectly at home on it. And they gave me a Polish co-driver, Jacek Lewandowski, a young fella, and he was very good. He was excellent. And the way they did it out there, I was out there for 3 weeks, and you reckon the stages beforehand. You're given the stages beforehand, and it's up to you how you spend your time on them. And I worked very hard at the recce because I wanted to, I didn't want to embarrass myself and be showing up. And I worked night and day on those stages. But the only thing was, out there, they practice the stages at rally speeds. Right. Now that's on open roads. Yes. You know, at night time you'd be going along the stage, the next thing you'd see these headlamps come behind you, wow, and the car would pass you. Yes. And it could be any of the top men wrecking. But I always had a fear, especially since my accident, of driving on an open road. Right. I never ever did a navigation rally in my life because I don't believe in that on the open road. Yes. And I just couldn't bring myself to drive the car at that speed. And I didn't think I needed to because I was making my own notes. So, you know, I could make notes driving at 30 miles an hour. Yes. And then if I could check on them, I knew, well, that's, you know, as long as I got doing it over the stage twice, I could be happy with the notes. Now, the only thing was the co-driver wasn't very happy with me, because he thought he'd landed a bit of a dummy because I wouldn't drive hard on the stages at night. you know, you could drive 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yes.
But I mean, not
These other boys were going full rally speed. Like,
and they were going full rally speeds, and they were passing you, and they come up behind you, boy, your car shook. And there were the two main men for the European Championship that year were vying for the championship were Giannini in a Porsche 911 and Bernard Began, the Frenchman, in a Porsche 911. The Italian or Spaniard and Began was French. They had two beautiful Porsche 911s, my favorite car, and they were out for the European Championship. So I forget which one was leading, but there was nothing between them. And it was nice to meet those guys. And we stayed in the Victoria Hotel in Warsaw. Warsaw, beautiful city, and just the people were lovely. But you know what wasn't very nice? That, as I say, those are very difficult times, and you saw the people queuing up for bread on the street, a big queue at a shop to get bread. And here we were, sitting in the lap of luxury in the Victoria Hotel in Warsaw, which wasn't, you know, that didn't sit easy with you. You wondered, what's wrong here? You know, a typical communist country where communism ruled, and you could sit in the lap of luxury, and while the Polish people were queuing for food. And we were given cars. I was given a car with red number plates. Well, red number plates meant that you got priority everywhere. You drove up to a filling station to get petrol, there'd always be a queue. But you bypassed the queue and went to the very front. Now, you didn't like doing that, but my co-driver, he knew you should front, you know. So that was the way it was. But it was a lovely experience being in Poland with the Polish people and being with the Polish team.
Yes.
They're lovely people. And nothing was a problem. And the thing about the works drive was all I had to bring was my helmet, my gloves. Everything was paid for.
Right.
And, you know, the tires, you got your choice. We used Michelin's at that stage. You got the choice of Michelin TV10s, 15s, 20s. And, you know, if you wanted them changed after 2 stages, where before I was always trying to take as much out of it as I could.
Yes.
Just 2 tires, that was it. And that was the difference between work drive and funding yourself. And we got off the Polish rally. It was a fantastic rally in the way that it also went through the first few stages, practically through forests. But the forests, unlike the ones we have here, it was hard packed gravel, and it was very brittle, and that was it. So those and very rough, but that should be down to the ground. And the Polski was a pretty strong car, at least I hoped it was. So we headed off anyhow, and I suppose the adrenaline was flowing in me, and I didn't want to let myself down in this car or let the team down either. And there were 50 journalists flowing out from UK and from north of Ireland. There was one, Richard Young was flown out from the north of Ireland, and I forget who it was from the south of Ireland. But there were 2 journalists flying to Ireland anyhow. So they were all there, and they were giving me good support. And on stages through the forest, I beat the 2 Porsches and the Polski and the reason I beat them was, let's face it, it wasn't that I was quicker. It was because they were preserving their car over the very rough roads, and I wasn't. I was in the hilt, and there were big tracks across the road, but I never slacked for them, and that was good. So that really pleased the Polski team. They were over the moon that their car was leading this rally for a short time. And we kept on, and then the quick cars got in front of me. But I was still there, you know. I wasn't in the top 6 or anything, but I was in around the top 10 and setting decent times, and they were very, very happy with everything. And then we're on to the loose stages again, and I must say the loose stages were the ones that I could claw back a lot of time. And on one loose stage, we got one puncture, decided to drive on. Lo and behold, we got another puncture. So with 2 punctures on the same side of the car, which was on my side actually, which was the left-hand side, and the 2 tires were flat. So I had to stop and change one wheel. And were stopped at the side of the road, night time, completely dark, changing a wheel, put it on, car jacked up, round the corner came the works Mazda driver, a good friend, good guy, Willie Rutherford from Newcastle. This guy was from Rutherford, a very capable, quick driver, since passed away at a young age. But Willie came round in the Mazda and sideswiped me and knocked the car off the jack. He didn't mean to do it. Like, he didn't. I was there. Like, I was out, but he was fully committed.
Yes.
And he and I had travelled over together and stayed together in the same hotel. But we got her jacked up again. Didn't slow him down any. And we got one wheel changed. Got to the end of the stage, and then we got into the service. I was over my time. Right. By the time I changed the second wheel, and that would be out of the rally. So that was disappointing. Because the car at least was still going at that stage, and I'd learned a bit about it, and it was hard work to drive. It was challenging. Let's put it that way. Yes. But it was a drive, and I enjoyed it. So that was Poland, and that was the Polish guys, and got to do the RAC rally in it, and got to do the Manx in it, and. The RAC was a great rally to be able to do. I got to do it twice. Yeah, even to say you've done that in a work team, it's fantastic. Yeah, that was nice. That was the lovely part. For I could never have got to do the RAC rally under my own auspices or with my own car. I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So it was great to be there. You got to know a lot of the world rally fraternity, and you felt more comfortable mixing it with them and talking with them, because you knew these guys were superhuman, and the respect there. So it was lovely to do the RAC, and I thought the RAC would be very daunting. But what I saw about the RAC was, the top 20, the top 15 drivers, you have very good drivers from all over the world, really good. And then after that, there are a lot of guys, money guys, with cars who be fairly average drivers, and so you have the two levels: really good guys, and then the guys just doing it to do the RAC, no doubt they're qualified, and great machinery. But I was on some stages at the start, I was catching cars, and I honestly thought there was something wrong with them, but it was just the seating. These guys were out for the run round. Yes. So I got up into the top 20 and enjoying it thoroughly, and got into Kielder. And by that stage, the conditions were horrendous with rain, wet, which was fine, didn't mind that. But the cars started to misbehave, and lo and behold, the carburetors fell apart in Kielder. The carburetors, but parts lost out of them, and the car was just gradually coming apart. Yes. I got a bit of the rally done, and experience. Yeah. That was that. Brilliant. So then for 81, 81, then you moved up to Group 4 Mark II Escort. Was it finally good to get into something that what you'd been chasing all along? You'd been chasing these guys to finally now be an equal machinery. Was that a nice feeling to step into that? That was lovely to get that, because I heard of this for Escort was for sale. And it was on Tansy. Dublin had it. And, it was a really good Escort that had been by Sidney Meek. And John had done the Circuit of Ireland in it. And then he had this garage, and Sidney said he'd sell it. So I approached John, absolute gentleman, and he lived in Dublin, and we agreed to go down and see it. And he ended up selling me his Group 4 Escort and all the spares for a very, very competitive price. Right. It's thanks to him that I'm eternally grateful for selling me a really good Group 4 Escort. Yes. And brought it up home. Trevor Semple was with me, and we went out on a Sunday. Bet of the day, the bet of the deed, and we bought the car and drove the car home. We brought the van down to this, but we weren't expecting to really to end up pilot. So we drove the car home, and he filled the car with all the spares he had. So it was a nice story. Nice.
Yes.
What car did Sydney make? And Sydney said he the car, so he was good. And so they said, well, you know, the edge on this car, he says, it wouldn't be top rated the same as the Works boys, but he says, I think you should contact Ford and see what they do for you. So I contacted Ford, and Ford ended up that I sent back that engine that was in the car, and they sent me over an engine with a Nicosia block, which was a good PDA engine.
Yes.
And so we'd a fit car for the circuit of Ireland, just in time for the circuit.
Right.
So 81 circuit, yeah. Bill Moffat was with me, good co-driver, and we set off on the circuit, and I loved the chance to drive a really competitive car that, you know, you could, if you took a bit of scruff of the neck, you could make an escort dance. And we were in the top three and the whole time. Tony Pond led at the start. Then I was second for a while. Then he got ahead of me, and we got down to Killarney. Coming into Killarney, a few stages beforehand, the clutch started to slip, and changing the clutch in a group escort is no great job. It's easy enough done. The boys can do it. Yes. And Sydney and the were service me at the stage, plus my own guys who were always with me. And they sit down on the service in the Killarney. There's quite a bit of time, and they would change the clutch. There's obviously must have been a bit on it. So out the box came, and they went to change the clutch. It wasn't the clutch, it was the pressure plate. When I changed in the pressure plate, well, the clutch plate's easy to take out, pressure was a lot more time. So they changed clutch and pressure plate, got all into the escort, and all back out again, and off we went into the final time control in Killarney town itself, where the usual traffic was horrendous, and I had to drive far too fast the road to get in. And but the guards were very good and left us through, and we got in, and we were just over our time, on a minute over our time. Right. You know, and we were ahead of and the Ian escort and stuff like that there. We were if we'd kept on the road, you never know what to do, but we'd have been sitting looking for a result. But it wasn't to be. We're right over time, so we had to put the car in the trailer and head home. Yeah. So that was a wee bit disappointing, especially when I was getting to know the escort better, because I'd only driven it, and it was elected, and I knew it could make wee improvements, but it suited me. And when I got the car tailored to what I felt it would be too hard. I don't like a car too hard, and things like that there. But I loved the car, and it went well. Yes. Got back to Sydney, and I asked him to do certain things to it that would make it to my liking, and he did. For he was excellent car preparation. Yes. Always gave you a good car, and that was it. So the next event after that then was going to be Donegal in 1981. Yes.
And what a rally!
Yeah, what a rally! Yeah, 81. That was fantastic. Yeah, well prepared for that. I was well psyched up for it. I really was. For that rally. And I felt I've got a car here capable of winning. I have a good results in a Group 1 car. I know my way around Donegal now, and I was up for it, and I thought I'm going to give it a real go. From the top of the flag, I was psyched to the heavens, and I just went for it, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was nice to steer it home ahead of Jimmy.
It's phenomenal to be, coming like Jimmy McRae at that time, and Terry Cabey was there, like proper works. They were getting paid to be there, in the best of cars and everything else. There you were.
Excuse me, they were very good drivers as well. Yes. And none better than Jimmy. and it was nice to be able to get in ahead of So it was a organised rally too, very well run, great. Just all the classics, all the great Donegal stages. And the weather was just as you'd expect. And when I go off that rally, and that was nice to get the first international, and that was the first international win for Sydney Meek as well. Sitting the car before the one international, Bertie hadn't won any at that time, so it was nice. He was very good. He served in that rally along with the old fellas again. They were always there too. They really backed them up. They did the most of the service. They backed them up. So all the same guys again were with. Always had the same guys with.
Yes.
So that
fantastic, isn't it? They have that story too. And then you come back in '82. Sorry, and then you come back in '82 and defended your title again. Then, beating Ballycoman, Roger Clark again. I know a star-studded lineup again.
Happy there too in '82. Based on Bundoran that year, which was completely different. I left it a fairly for everybody because there was a lot of new territory, new stages were there, and it was a huge challenge. And it was nice to be Roger over with a beautiful group for works escorts. There is Skona works at Skona, and you work cut out for me that year, but we managed to do the business. A very wet year. That was excellent. Saturday, it's so strange and ordinary for play ball to have a wet international rally, and it was really wet. The stages were extremely wet on Saturday, and service in Milford was like a pond, and we had nowhere to go and kept the lead, and Roger went out to the Bona engine. Billy went out on a Saturday evening with a broken back axe. Thinking this.
Right.
So we were left with a lead, and on Sunday I hadn't to push it. I was very fortunate that I was able to come home without a lot of pressure. John second, I was about 7 minutes behind.
Right. Yeah.
That was a nice game. And get it in Donegal, which is
And also in '82, you won the Lurgan Park Rally. Lurgan Park.
Lurgan
Park. Yeah, which was the up and coming. It was called the Burma Rally then, but this was bringing rallying to the people, into the centre of a town. There was huge crowds there 11 years, wasn't there?
Yeah, the Burma several years before, and it's a good rally. It brings such crowds, and it's excellent for spectators. It's loose, tarmac, loose. It's a mixture of everything, and it's down through the trees. Certainly, something for the boys. And before it led it in the Opal. On the last days, the convoy dropped off.
Right.
So I was in a good run, and the place Singleton sat with me for the day, and we managed to bring that one home. I think Bertie was second.
Yes.
I'm not sure who was fourth, but we had a good run on that one, and that was '82.
Yeah.
And then that was by Downtown really was a sponsor at that stage, and we're a great sponsor. But they sponsored me for 2 years. So that was their sponsorship over, and that left me. That I wasn't in a position to run a Group 4 car without sponsorship, so I had to stop and see could I get sponsorship again, and that's always very difficult, as you know.
Yes. So you kind of stepped away then for a couple of years, and it was '85. Then you come back with Honda.
That's right.
Initially as a steer.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got Honda sponsorship in '85. I did a development for Peugeot, first of all.
Right, yes.
And on the 205, that was just work to develop their car for suspension testing and whatnot.
Okay.
So it was nice to get that. We're again. And step back from that there, and Honda were at that time just dipping their toe in the water, because they were heavily involved in Formula One at that time with Nigel Mansell.
Yes.
And he was winning all around him on the Honda at that time car. So I got a Civic through Harold McGarity, who was a Honda agent in Belfast, a very good friend of mine too. So we got this Civic, and parts were, they hadn't any parts for it. It was a twin cam Civic. Engine was beautiful, the retractable engine, but suspension was poor, and the brakes weren't great. But we got taken out to did a few wee rounds in the car, and I liked it. But it wasn't a Group 4 car, nothing like
No.
that. The four handles to get a result. We took it out. We went out to Japan then. They paid for us to go out there, and I think they wanted to see what we were like before they would put any budget in place. And that was really enjoyed that. It was a great experience to get to Japan. It was like getting to Poland. We got to Japan. It was the most expensive country I've ever been in my life. I'm glad I hadn't to pay for anything, because even food was horrendously expensive. Lovely country.
Yes.
They treated us like VIPs. Everything was paid for, and you saw around the Honda factory, which was mind-blowing.
Yes.
And you saw Nigel Mansell's car sitting in there, and the Mugen were the competition arm of Honda, MUGEN.
Yes.
And so you could see it around there, and they treated us so well. And being from Ireland of Ireland, it was especially nice too, because they looked after you so well. And the Japanese, they're a very courteous nation, and lovely people, and very correct in everything they do. So they took us out to the test factory, and it was nice to get driving their products around there. They also had a full rally stage around the test factory, and it went from tarmac to loose tarmac, and pound the cars around there all day long.
Yes.
So it came, and obviously one made to drive the car, which I was very, very glad to do.
Yes.
And it had a couple of test drivers, and they said to me, now go as fast as you like, which was nice to get that.
Yeah.
But the first time I drove round, I just drove round to get, drove around sharpish just to get to know the way around it, but I hadn't what it was like, what the terrain was like, where it was terrain, it was hard to read. So I drove around it and came a couple of laps, and looked at the times, and I said, well, no, they weren't great, so I know, but I wasn't trying. And I'll go out there, I'll try. So I knew how to do something. So I went out and let her and drove it as hard as I could. And when I came in the next time, the wee Japanese were jumping up and down with delight, because I'd done a very good time, and I beat the time of their test drivers. So after that, they accepted me. They knew I wasn't a dummy, and they were even nicer. And I realised then that I could drive. So then I said, look, I want some parts for this car. We need bits and pieces. So they got me the differential, which was fantastic to get that. Like that made such a difference. A front-wheel drive car. So I remember Johnny says, well, we got this stuff home, so I will buy an extra case, Harold. And so we got a little split differential. We got 2 front struts. We got discs, and I remember walking out to the plane, and never mind putting the cases on the trolley to get onto the plane. We also had hand luggage. Well, I could hardly carry the hand luggage out on the weight of it, and there was no such thing as a hand luggage going on the upper thing. A foot of steel. But everybody was very good, and we got the bits and pieces home with them. Between Harold and myself, we got bits and pieces home, and we were 3 weeks in Japan. That's a long time. And, a lovely experience, and as I say, the Ulster Bank, who were my employer, were very good to make it time off. So we came home with the bits and pieces, fitted them onto the Honda, and it just transformed the car.
Right.
It made a you know, fairly competitive wee car. And the engine was untouched, but it was a wee twin cam engine.
Yes.
You could have revved the life out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very tractable and easy to drive. The car was quite difficult to drive 10 tenths because you had to really take it by the scruff of the neck. But it was good. I liked it. I liked it, and we got some good results in it. And then Donegal, I think, I took it to 8th overall.
Yeah.
And, on the group and on the class. But to get a car with that, to get it up to 8th overall, really, really, really pleased me. It was a much better result than some of the results I got in Group 1 cars, because this car was, you know, it was different, and it wasn't.
Yes, and it was very, very, like, you know, at that time when you think of like 86 and that, you know, you had your Metros, your Mantas, you know, you had the,
that's right.
You know, the top Group B cars at that time, you know, like the ultimate fire-rating monsters, so.
That's right, because we finished amongst them and finished ahead of a few Group B cars. And it was another rally there. So with some good results with it, Honda. Some good development work for them, and they paid, which was nice.
Yes.
Because I had money to do it, and it was nice that Honda came up with a fair bit of money to develop the car for them and to get results. So they were very happy. They gave us a car to wreck in any rally would do. They would have supplied a road car, and then the rally car was supplied through Harold, the Honda agent. So they were happy with that. And, I think it 2 years with them.
I 85 and 86 both, so.
Yeah, and I think the next drive I got was the Lancia drive.
Yes, I had 2 years in the Lancia then too. And again, giant killing performances once again, you know.
Thank you. Yeah, the Lancia, I would say probably the Lancia was it was really a full works drive. Right. Because Lancia Delta, it was just been introduced onto the Irish market. And Lancia was brought in by Fiat, and Hume House in Dublin was the place where the headquarters for Fiat Lancia, their offices. And that drive was coming up, and I think the a few boys for it. But anyhow, they interviewed me for it, and I went down to Hume House, and they wanted to do as much exposure for the car as they could do, and to get the results for it. And it really was an unknown package. It was an unknown package at that time, especially on tarmac. It was 4-wheel drive, which was nice, but it wasn't the Delta Integrale. It was just the Delta. So I hoped it would be reliable, and for a thought, you know, Italian cars could be either way, and it was all done through my very good friend, one of the best friends I have, Martin Riley in Sligo, who was the Lancia dealer, and everything was through Martin. Martin went with me, and I would say it's thanks to Martin, really, that I got to drive in that car. It was left-hand drive, and they knew I could handle left-hand drive with you know, I was perfectly comfortable with left-hand drive. So we set up the budget to do the 5 or 6 internationals rallies, and set the budget up for that there. I was to have my own team to service the car, look after the car, prepare the car, and they would supply the bits and pieces, and also paid me to drive it because they gave me the budget, and as long as I didn't go over budget, it was fine. And it was a nice professional setup. It was very professional, and the car, we got it just before the Circuit of Ireland, and it was a completely standard car because they had nothing else at that time. It wasn't a Group 1 car. It was a showroom car. Yes, it really was a showroom, and it came along, and we had no spares package worthwhile because, as I say, the whole thing was set up quickly for the circuit. and took it there, and we really didn't know what it would perform like. We got springs, coil springs for it, and some card, and a few bits and pieces, roll cage, but it was completely and utterly showroom car, set off on the circuit, and it was a car that you had to adapt to it. It didn't steer or drive. It's been four-wheel drive. It had been heavy at the front. It understeered a lot. And adapt your driving style to it. You couldn't go to a corner and think you're going to get this sideways and set it up. It was a very boring car for spectators to look at, because even though I was driving a 1010s, it certainly didn't look like it. It was a straight line car. And as you know, I always used the left foot to brake, and left foot brake, I'm treating it because it was turbo. And you had to keep this. And as long as you left foot braked it and kept the momentum up and kept it in corners, you had to straight line corners. It didn't, with being so heavy in the front and being nose heavy, it understeered a lot. So you had to have, it worked well in notes. I wouldn't have liked to have driven the car without notes. Yes. Because if you got that corner a bit too quick, it would understeer off the road. But it worked on notes, and I liked the car once I learned how to drive it. It was just a different technique, and I drove the Honda four-wheel drive, so I drove it left foot braked it as well, because four-wheel drive cars, four-wheel drive cars, they adapt well to that. Rear-wheel drive cars don't. And the first event was the 87 circuit, and we were against the Sierra Cosworths, which were a lot more powerful, but two-wheel drive. They weren't at that stage. And the Mercedes, Cosworth Mercedes, and what else was there? There was the Mazda, four-wheel drive Mazda. And I don't know if there's anything else there, Kevin. Was there that year?
Probably no. I think the Sierras and all that have been so much better developed, by that stage and all too, weren't they?
I really didn't. I thought I knew it had been work cut out with them, but the first stage I'd driven it in anger, and we set fastest Group 1 time in the first stage by a second or a couple of seconds. I forget now, but at least, and I was shocked at that, because it was going quickly. It didn't feel as if I was doing everything properly. I knew I was driving it very correctly, but I was adapting to the car and learning it. But no, we were fit. There was a very quick driver. We were Ramon Ferreras. Yes. But really Sierra. And but we were ahead of him, and we managed to stay ahead. And it was tight going. I wasn't setting all the fastest Group 1 times, but I was consistently in the top 2, top 3 Group 1 times. So we could go into, it wasn't Killarney that year, it was Waterford. Down to Waterford, and we were leading Group 1 by a small margin, I forget now, but maybe a minute or something like that there. So we just kept it consistent. The car never missed a beat. Never missed a thing. I was very pleasantly surprised. And we were, I was doing my best to drive it as quick as I could. But I didn't look at it, wasn't, there was no spectators who were going up and saying you're doing a great job. I didn't look at it, but I can assure you, I was definitely inside. But we brought the car home, and we won Group 1, and I'm not sure where we were overall. We were around
12th or something, 10th or 12th. I think you were maybe just outside, just outside the top 10. But
of the Sierra Cosworths, and Lancia were they were so pleased, and I was so pleased for them, because they'd put a lot of money into this project. This was costing them a big budget, and to bring the car out, new car, undeveloped at that time, into the Irish market. We wanted to sell them, and to win Group 1. They advertised, they used it. They were very smart, but typical works. They took an advertisement in all the Irish papers. Lancia, you'd have thought would won the Circuit of Ireland, but only won Group 1.
Yes.
They used it. Comes home first and circuit of
yes.
one, and any normal person reading it wasn't at the Motorsport thought that it won the circuit. It was a very pleasing result for everyone concerned.
Yes.
Because we then it was Donegal after the circuit, and we won Group 1 again.
And 6th overall then again too, and again, like you're up against the Mantas and all that again that year, like another phenomenal entry, and to come away like with 6th overall there, like the cars behind you would have been proud to finish any other rally, so super achievement.
The laugh about it was there was even a radio stereo in the car because it was a showroom car. It was one car. Regardless of that, I can see. And then, what was the next rally then?
You went on then the following year. Just looking here, even like you got a newer version of that car again. Then the following year for Galway.
That's right. Yeah. Well, 87. We did a few more international.
Yes.
One Group 1.
You won Group N championship that year. Yep.
Group N, it was called then.
Yes.
Yeah. We managed to win the Group N championship, which pleased Lancia no end. They were very because they used it to their full advantage.
Yes.
And they were so pleased that after the year was over, I thought that might be it now. They've established the car in the Irish market. They've won Group N with it. I thought this is the end of my drive. But no, they said, look, we'll get you, we'd like you to do it next year again. And they got me a new Group N car. That one was sold off, arranged a budget again, all through Martin Riley and through his garage in Sligo. Everything was done through Martin. And my boys looked after the car again. And we went at it again on 88. Galway 88. So that was a very pleasing result for Lancia because it was a wet year in Galway, 88, and we finished 3rd overall behind Mark Lovell and James Cullen in the car. So that was a nice result. And the circuit came after Galway. That's the only the circuit, and that was with Gwyndav Evans over in the Group N Sierra, and the Sierras were giving me a hard time. And when out in Northern Ireland, we were just a few seconds of it, about 3 seconds behind Gwyndav, and we come on the stage at outside Newry. Forget the name of it now, but it's one which goes through a forest, which is very unusual for the Circuit of Ireland. Part of a loose station, I think. Right, to be with the 4-wheel drive, and I was everything. I was 10 tenths, and came up to just a straightforward 90 right junction, and wrecked the car, and the only that just bang, the brake disc broke, which was very unusual. The front brake disc knocked up the wheel, spun round the road, and that was me out of the rally because the brake disc jammed the transmission, and so there we were. So we just had to we got it. We dismantled it at the side of the stage, and drove the car home. Actually, we weren't far from home altogether. Off the border, but we were in for a really good race with Gwyndav. Gwyndav would probably have won, but he had a quicker car, and he was an extremely competent driver. I don't think I'd have pulled that one off. Fooling myself, but we were right. We were giving him a real race for it anyhow, and that. So it wasn't, with getting a great start to the year with 3rd overall in Galway. That was the circuit. That was an on-finish. On to Donegal then, was the next international, and started off well. Really, it's the first time the Lancia all year let me down. It was the first time that it's shown any, it was such a reliable wee car. And it blew the head gasket. And actually, we stopped on Glen stage I know well, not far from where I live.
Yeah.
So we were right up there knocking on the door, and the car started to heat and mist, and it was a head gasket. So that was that over. There out of 3 internationals, 2 non-finishes. Wasn't looking a good year for me or for Lancia, but going then to what was the next international? The Ulster,
Ulster,
and we got good. We got back up there again, won Group N and got into the top 6. Cork, and same thing, and we got enough points to rally the lakes between them. Anyhow, we got enough points to win the championship. Very lucky, because we just scraped home with having 2 non-finishes, one due to the car and one due to myself. It was we were lucky to end the year as Group N champions for Lancia again, and I was delighted. Delighted for my friend Martin Riley, delighted for Lancia, because they were so good to me, and it was a very nice drive and a lovely way to end my career.
Yeah, you bowed away from the sport then at the end of '88. You always had great sponsors on board, like Downtown, Primark, even Budweiser, even right back early years, Vladimir Vodka. Them was top line companies. Like, you were obviously bringing something good to their party, but as you alluded to there, you brought a lot of good publicity to them as well, isn't it? Like, there's a lot to be learned there for somebody attracting sponsors now.
Yeah, it works both ways. I really needed the sponsorship, because I hadn't I wasn't wealthy myself to run a rally car, so I had to really quite actively look for good sponsorship. And the one thing I wanted to do was try and attract a good sponsor, a multinational sponsor, something really good, because I think there's no point in putting 3, 4, 5 names on the side of a car, because the car's not known. It loses its identity. And if you look at the work, I didn't realize this at the time when I was rallying, but if you take a like of Jimmy and the Works Manta, and Russell Brooks, an example, one of the best drivers ever. Brooksy always had Andrew Teat for hire, but they paid for his rallying.
Yes.
He got a car from Ford, but he had to run it. And the same Jimmy, they had to bring a budget. It was very rare to get what I got from a drive, a full work drive. And that was why with sponsorship, I think it's so important to get a proper sponsor. Now, that doesn't come easy.
No.
And any sponsor I got, I went to the company myself, I gave them my background, and tried to sell myself to them. And I didn't. One thing I always say to them, so I'm not going to over-promise and under-deliver, because that's the worst thing you can do, and we'll all end up disappointed. And with rallying, you can't guarantee results. But the one thing I said to them was, look, the one thing I can guarantee you, there'll be nobody out there trying any harder than myself. There'll be no one out there trying harder.
Yes.
I can't guarantee your results, but I guarantee you I'll try very hard, and whilst I'm going, I'll be knocking at the front door.
Yes.
And that seemed to appeal to them. They knew then, well, look, this guy's honest, and if he's up near the front, that's where we need to be.
They'll be getting the press coverage or whatever from that then as well. Yes. So.
That's right. They get the press coverage, and that's it's hard to attract sponsorship, because you're putting a figure on it. You're trying to get them to commit, and they have to pass the budget in front of their directors. And Vladimir Vodka were a very good sponsor. We didn't run out of vodka that year, I can assure you. Keep the vodka for the service crew and everybody else. It was an excellent sponsor. All my sponsors were very good, and I always kept in touch with them. I kept them informed of what was happening, got photographs of the car, did anything for them that they wanted to try and create publicity for them, and that was excellent. So with Vladimir Vodka, there was Downtown Radio were top class. They were a super sponsor, and I was very fortunate to get them, and a relationship with the directors, and they felt they got value for money, so I was very happy with that.
And like Primark, like you know, a brand now that's, you know, that's such a big name now in shopping and all now. That was,
Primark,
you never hear of that like that
Primark,
nowadays.
no, Primark were excellent. I met the man who was in charge of the PR for Primark was called, I forgot his first name, but he was Mr. Fennell. Fennell was the surname. Right. Lovely gentleman. Yes. And I went down to meet him in the Berkeley Court Hotel. You know, it was just the usual case of trying to sell yourself and what could I do for him that could get Primark the money. We sat down in the Berkeley Court. I gave him a background. We talked. We had lunch together. Outlined my plans. Told him about the money I needed, and he said he could do so much, and we shook hands on it. And that was it. And it was a great sponsor, and they seemed very happy. And like I took the car and put it into the Primark store in Royal Avenue in Belfast, right in the door which they wanted for a Saturday, for a PR day. Yes. So, I think a lot of people, they take the money and run. Yes. And you know, you have to prove you want to give the sponsor money because they'll soon cop on. This guy doesn't give us value for money. Yeah. Primark, after every sponsor I had, I would go and thank them and give them a photograph of the car or something after it was over, after the sponsorship had ended. And then, you know, you've only one reputation. I think you've got to try and keep it. Yes, so exactly. That was it. But at the end of 88, then Lancia, believe it or not, we're going to go in 89 again, because at that time they brought out the Integrale. Yes. And I would have loved to have driven the Integrale because it was more power, more everything. Yes. They were keen to do it again. And Jeff Smith was the man in charge of Lancia Europe. And he was an Irishman. He was in charge of Lancia Europe. Lovely man. Yes. And who's gone on to even greater things. He approached me and I said, look, Jeff, I've just been made an area director in Ulster Bank, and they've employed me for a long number of years. They've looked after me well, and very, very good to be in sport. And now I'm going to have to make a choice, because they'll want a lot more. It's payback time. Yes. It's really payback time. And so I much as like it, I'm getting older too. So I feel that I'm like a dog in a manger. So if anyone had told me years ago I'd turned down a works drive, I would say that they're mental. I turned it down. I said to Jeff, you don't mind, Jeff. I really, I want to a career now, because they've given me, and it's going to take me all my time to try and do the job. Yes. Which is true. That we shook hands on that there, and I said, you know, have you anybody else in mind? He says, if you're not doing it, we're not. And that was it. Yes. So that was me retired from rallying. Yes. Something I never intended to start. Yes, whatever, 15 years later, it wasn't a bad go. Well, it all started off with doing the Circuit of Ireland and doing bits from there, sponsorship, having friends around me. And I must say, I'd never have done it without the good friendships I had from really good, sincere friends. Yes. Who are still friends to neighbours at home. But, you know, right down to very neighbours who were always with me. As I say, I named them there. Yes. Eric Porter, Danny Lynch, John Wilson, Patsy Keenan, Gary Wilson, Willie John Dolan, all those guys there. You know, that gave you the encouragement to go on. And people sometimes criticise me for not taking, you know, more professional co-drivers than the guys who were better known. But Willie Moffat was very good. Anybody out with me, they never let me down on that side of the car. So I was happy with it. Yeah. And that was really. Like a young John Lyons, if he was rallying now, would he just love to be stepping into an R5 car now and starting off in the Friday morning in Donegal? Well, it would be very, very nice, but I've got to content myself with that when I've done it. I can hardly park a car now. So they don't give me a 5-car now, but every dog of this day.
Yes.
But yes, it'd be lovely to be sitting on the line. But I feel I'm definitely content with what I've done, with what I've achieved, and the amount of contacts and friends I've made on the way. That has been absolutely tremendous. That's the one thing about sport. Any sport, I think, especially rallying. It served me very well in the way that I made so many friends, so many contacts, all over, not just Ireland, but that you can benefit from that there, and that was one of the big pluses about rallying, and the people that compete in it. They're a good crowd. They're a good bunch. They help each other out, and that was one of the great benefits of it. And I really enjoyed the career, and I'm glad that I did try, and I got involved at the bottom step after all the testing, and by just doing one rally, and then one rally in 1 year, another rally another year, then it built up the momentum like that there, and I didn't set out to do what I did, but it came in bits and pieces, and getting money put together and whatnot. I suppose if it come from a wealthy family that could have afforded to do it, I would have structured it and done it differently. But I have no regrets whatsoever.
No.
And I'm really enjoyed what I've done, and I'm really grateful to everyone, not just the sponsors, but all my friends who helped me achieve what I did do. And my family were always behind me too. My wife Wendy always fully supportive of it. Even when I made the decision to give up, she said to me, "But why?" She says, "Why give up now?" And I explained it. She was always behind me too. And it's nice when you have the support of your family and your friends. It means such a lot. Because I think, in many ways, after I competed in the circuit in 1976, I was happy with my lot. Then I saw, well, it's nice to have met these guys.
Mix it with them.
That's right. It's nice to, and I was happy enough. And it was the other guys pushing me on and saying, "No, you're wasting your time here. You need to get out again." And that really encouraged me. And that means more than people realise.
Yes, good people around you just makes all the difference.
Yeah,
well, John, I think on that point, I think we can call it a night. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you for taking the time to go, take us down through your career.
Kevin, thank you very much for inviting me to. I hope I haven't bored you stupid.
Not at all. Not a very enjoyable story.
You obviously have done your homework there. You know more about my results than I can remember now, but I really do appreciate it, and I've enjoyed this tremendously. Trying to remember all, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank John Lyons for joining us in this episode of Crunching Gears. John was a real hero of mine growing up. I started attending Donegal Rally in the early 80s, and John would have been winning the rally at this time. And I've often heard the stories of his giant Cadillacs and the Group 1 cars, and to hear these stories firsthand was just phenomenal. And then to hear the stories behind the Honda and the Lancia, which I also enjoyed watching many times from the ditches. I'm just blown away by John's generosity and such a kind and gentleman, just taking the time to go through and explain all these stories. I hope you enjoyed this podcast as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you liked it, please, can you subscribe, like, and share on all social media? And if you're listening on Apple, can you please rate the podcast? We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Until the next time, speak to you then. Take care. Bye.